You're listening to BQN. Assimilate the audio.
Well, hello, good day, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are joining us from in the world, whether you are live with us today or watching the replay on YouTube or listening to the audio podcast. Hello, hello, hello. It is me, Davey, and welcome to The Hive Mind by BQN Podcasts. Today, I'm excited to have a bit of a discussion with one of our Patreon members who has chosen to join us today, all about Prodigy Season 2. So this is going to be the first of two panel discussions. We will be covering the first 10 episodes today. And then next week we will be back covering the back half of the season, episodes 11 to 20. I am going to be joined today by the fabulous Jim McMahon. And for those of you, if you do join us live on YouTube and Facebook, the broadcast is going out across, it is on the BQN YouTube page. You can also find it on the Trexperts Quiz Twitch, the Trexperts Quiz Facebook, the BQN Facebook, and hey, if you're my friend on Facebook, Davey Ryan, you could be watching this on my Facebook Live right now. Just trying to maximize the audience as much as I can. It is a Saturday evening for my North American friends, Sunday morning for me here in Australia. Maybe it's the middle of your summer, so we may not have too many people watching live. But I am excited to introduce my co-host for this discussion today. He is a rock for the BQN network. It is my dear friend, Jim. Jim, good to see you again. How have you been?
Hello, I am doing great. It is great to be here.
Yeah, it's good to have you back. I was saying to you just a moment ago, so I think anyone who kind of follows along at home knows that I've been gallivanting around Europe for the last 5-ish weeks. I have not done any podcasting or YouTubing in almost 2 months now. So I really just have to remember how to do all this again. I was like, where is everything on my laptop? Oh, wow. Okay. I'm still using all the Let's Fly logos. I need to update everything. It was chaos.
It's like relearning an old skill again.
Absolutely. But super lucky to be coming back to a whole new season of Star Trek, which dropped in a way we have not seen a season of Star Trek drop ever.
I don't think Star Trek has ever premiered like Prodigy Season 2, which can be both viewed as both a negative and possibly a positive, depending on how you look at it.
Yeah, I think for me, the downside of it is the fact it creates a bit of angst amongst the fandom. Because the fandom, Jim, we participate in a lot of online communities, Discords, Facebook groups. When it's releasing week on week, we've usually just got to avoid spoiling it for each other for about 24 to 48 hours. Everyone's going to watch it in the pace in which they can watch it. You would know from the BQN Discord, we had to manage spoilers very, very carefully.
Oh, yeah, we had to create a specific page just for it.
And look, and people can read spoilers into anything. I don't even want to hear you say that you thought it was good in a public discussion. I don't want to hear you say, wow, the season finale blew my mind, because now I'm going to expect it to blow my mind and I might be disappointed. What is a spoiler for you? How far does someone have to go before you're like, no, I don't want to hear you say anymore?
Yeah, for me, it depends. It can be situational. Like sometimes I really have to just get off of social media and ignore it entirely if it's something I really want and absolutely don't want spoilers. Other times I'm like, I absolutely don't care and the spoilers won't bother me at all. it's just completely a situational case by case basis for me.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, my Star Trek is sacred, and new Star Trek as a lifelong
Yeah.
fan with the drought.
Yeah,
that we
and
had.
most Star Trek, and most Star Trek for me has been kind of like usually I kind of have to stay off Facebook or any social media. Couple exceptions, like anything, but for the most part, I usually have to stay away from spoilers for Star Trek.
Absolutely, and there was a lot of hype around Prodigy season 2 for quite some time.
Especially given what Paramount wanted to do to it.
Yeah, we didn't know if we were going to get it or not. So the fact that we've been given this beautiful gift by our overlords and supreme masters, Netflix, is
Yeah.
a bit of a blessing. And look, we
Yeah,
all
and we didn't know how the season was going to be, especially like I said, given what Paramount wanted to do with it, which kind of like I guess you could say maybe heightened our expectations or lowered it possibly as well, both at the same time. I guess you could say.
Yeah, look, I didn't really think. Well, I think we knew that Paramount didn't axe it from Paramount Plus for quality reasons. It was pure financial.
True.
We're in deep financial shit, and we need a tax write-off kind of reasons.
Yeah,
more
that
than
whole
anything
thing I think is a discussion for another podcast entirely.
100%. Yep. So anyway, we're here now, and we've had Prodigy season 2 for a few weeks. I think it's been out for 3 weeks, close to a month. I was still in Europe
I think
when
it came out on like the just like right before our 4th of July celebration on like the 3rd of July.
Yeah, look, and I know from the BQN Discord, we have a spoiler alert channel in there, which is like, keep it muted, and when you're ready to discuss it, you can come into the spoiler channel. And we're starting to see some more people kind of pop up in there, which is good. But I know there's still plenty of people out there who haven't finished it, which is why I thought, well, let's
And I think there's some people who are still trying to get it even.
Yeah, which is why I'm like, okay, so we need to do our panel in 2 parts to try and not spoil too much for anyone and let people savor it. Now, actually, you made a good point there. There are still people waiting to watch it. I do know many of our good friends in Canada. It's just not on Netflix in Canada.
And that's the one that puzzles me, because like they're literally usually part of the North American packages, so they usually get it the same time we do.
I was amazed because I started watching it in Istanbul on Netflix. The Turkish Netflix had it the same day as the rest of the world, but our poor dear friends in Canada, I hope that I know there's a particular broadcaster that streams it there. I hope they get their act together very, very soon.
I thought Paramount was personally streaming it there. At least that was my understanding.
Yeah.
But I hope Kevin. I hope dear Kevin and all other Canadian Star Trek fans get it at some point.
Yes, indeed. I believe there may be some VPNing going on for a few people. I don't know. I think that's a bit of a grey area illegally.
Oh, I'm sure there is.
But I hope it doesn't disrupt our valuable viewer statistics for it, which are really, really needed to ensure that Netflix goes, yep, this is a hit. Let's pick this up for a 3rd season. Now, as I understand it, I think it's actually been pretty good. I've seen some posts online that suggest it's made it into the top 10 Netflix charts.
It did make it into the top 10. I've seen it I've seen it a couple of times when I've logged on to Netflix, even if that wasn't necessarily what I was logging on to watch. I've seen the thumbnail for it, like where it'll say in like one of the corners for the Prodigy, like it'll say top 10 on it or something along that lines, which makes me very happy to see, because that buoys my hope that they will make more seasons of it.
It's almost like we are living in our own TOS kind of era where we've gotten 2 seasons of this show that we really, really love. The network, the studio is trying to pull the plug on it, and we are going hell for leather as fans to bring it back for a 3rd season. Now, let's just hope that history repeats itself to the extent that we get a 3rd season, but not to the extent that we get a terrible, underfunded 3rd season.
or that we're able to get more than a third season even.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now we've had it for a while, Jim. We've been having some debate on the BQN Discord about savoring versus binging. Now, I think you're savoring, right? Because how far into the
I
season are
started
you?
to savor, but then I think when I pointed out, when I think I said before we started recording that a friend pointed out to me, binge to guarantee that Netflix will give us another season. That's when I started to binge the season, and I got up. Prior to that, I'd watched maybe the pilot. After that, I've been in like the span of 48 hours. I binged like the first 11 episodes.
Yeah, exactly. And look, I thought I would savor it as well, but I got to the point where I was like, I'm enjoying this too much, especially in the back half of the season.
And there was that too. I was enjoying the hell out of it.
Yeah. So I'm going to put in here, on our YouTube, are you a binger? So if you are watching on YouTube, hit us up in the poll and let us know if you are a binger. If that's a really weird way to put it, but if you say no, it means you are savoring, and we're off and running on the way. We've already got. Oh, okay. So it's about half and half. We'll see how that poll goes. So. Look, we ran a poll on the Discord, the BQN Discord as well, which there is a link for in the episode description if you would like to join our Discord community, by the way. But we ran a poll and it was overwhelming that people were savoring it. Because I don't know, I can't binge shows anymore. If I watch the same show, even if I'm loving it for more than an hour or two, I start to get a little restless, and I start looking at my phone or playing with the dog or something like that. Not to mention as well, we, I'm a very busy, 40-year-old man with a full-time job and a partner and and lots of other stuff going on, so I don't always necessarily have that kind of time. But look, what I've enjoyed, I've really, really loved. Now, Jim, we are going to jump into what we're going to do today is we're going to discuss the first 10 episodes for this panel. We've got our good friend Peter in the chat as well. Peter, I hope you can give us some of your opinions, or feel free to jump on and join the show, Peter. You've got the link, but I know you're busy today. But I'm going to step through each episode, and we can spend as much time or as little time on each episode as we'd like. We're going to talk about just general. I'll give an overview of the plot. We'll talk about what goes on in terms of character development, and I've got some notes here on some of the key themes for each episode too. Remember, if you are watching us live, we want your input in the chat. I will take your input and read it out on the show to help guide mine and Jim's conversation. Now, we started the season, Jim, with a two-parter. There's lots of, the whole thing's very serialized, but there was lots of part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4 kind of episodes, but Into the Breach Part 1 and Into the Breach Part 2. So the season opens with the crew of the Protostar being reassigned to the USS Voyager A under Admiral Janeway. The Lamar class science vessel, the USS Voyager A. And the ship serves as the crew is introduced to various new assignments and tasks, right? They're in some kind of pre-academy, like they're undergraduates or something like that.
Like a preparatory school, I guess you could say.
Yeah, exactly. But, and you kind of get that there's some stuff going on. Dal's really struggling with the whole concept of, having to study. Dal just wants to get into the action. He's really being a typical teenager. 100%. Yeah. And Rock Talk is loving it, figuring out ways to stop tribbles from reproducing, which I thought was adorable.
So did I. I love that so much.
Yeah, and then what else do we had? We had Murph is security training, which was equally as hilarious.
I loved that line where I think the person said, like, that kid's a shoe in for the security track.
Yeah, yeah. And then we had, oh God, I can't remember what Zero was doing, but I mean, obviously we had Jankum in doing engineering, and Gwyn's off on a mission to.
I think Zero was science.
Yes, I believe so. If you know in the chat, please let us know, because I cannot remember what Zero was doing at the academy.
I can't remember either offhand.
Yeah. Gwyn's off to avoid civil war on her homeworld as a result of the timey-wimey stuff, which very much becomes prominent in this season. So let's talk about the first big thing here, Jim. The Voyager A. Give us your reaction to the Voyager A.
I enjoyed it. I liked the physical, even though it wasn't an Intrepid class. I liked the physical similarities and callbacks to the Intrepid class. Like, I actually, probably for the first episode or two, until I think it was until I actually noticed them referring to it differently. I actually thought it was an Intrepid class and just another ship that had the AA added onto it.
I found it had a bit of a blend between the Intrepid class and maybe like sort of the Sovereign or Odyssey class ships, like, you know, the like the Enterprise F or that was around.
After seeing all those episodes, I would kind of agree with that. That's a very good description of it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to put it out there. I thought from an exterior perspective, it was one sexy ship. Like, I was like, this is evolution of, you know, TNG era Federation starships I've been dying to see.
And it was also like perfect for like what you would see on like on a children's show as well, on top of that, because like it was, if anything could top the Protostar, it's definitely the Voyager A.
Yeah, exactly. And the one thing I will say I was not a big fan of was the design of the bridge. I don't know if you would agree or not. I found the bridge a little bland compared to the original Voyager bridge, which was
I never gave it that much thought. I thought the bridge was a little small, but beyond that.
Yeah, maybe that's what I didn't like. I don't know. I mean, I just thought maybe a little bit more pizzazz in my science vessel bridge. It almost felt more like the bridge of what might be, you know, a battleship or something like that, because it's very plain.
Yeah, kind of looked like the battle bridge on the Enterprise D.
Allegedly, the Voyager A has a battle bridge, though, because that's referenced a few times, or once or twice. We won't go too far. I think that's in the second half. I don't want to spoil anything for anyone that hasn't got after episode 10, maybe. Sorry. We will do our best to avoid spoilers beyond episode 10 if you are watching or listening to this. So anyway, look, I would have just gone maybe just a bit more grander, but maybe I think if I were to hazard a guess, maybe they didn't want the design of the Voyager A bridge to kind of be grander or prettier than the Protostar bridge, which is very beautifully designed, in my opinion. It's the flagship, it's the hero of the show, it's the Protostar. Perhaps. We did have a return of another Voyager character, further adding to fuel to the fire that everyone believes that Prodigy is the sequel, the spiritual successor to Voyager. And that was the return of the Doctor as mentor to our young
I could go on and on that about that.
Oh, please
I'll leave
do.
that to the various episodes.
Oh, okay.
I love the Doctor in this season.
It was cool, and I got the sense that Bob Picardo was having fun being back in the character.
Oh, you could tell that in his in some of his vocal performances from this season.
Yeah, and I loved all the little in jokes about how his hollow novels, and he's been continuing to write them, and you can flatter him very easily by bringing up one of his hollow novels, apparently.
Yeah.
Super, super cool. Super cool. So look, we learn pretty much straight away, and we're diving a little bit into the Breach Part 2 as well as we go through this part of the conversation. But we learn that there's this wormhole. It's a wormhole through time. It's at fixed points on either side, and Chakotay is on the other side in the future, and it's around about the time that he landed the protostar on Solum, and he's met Gwyn's people. So there's some weird kind of stuff going on there, and the crew, the young crew are chosen due to their expertise and knowledge in this space as well. And we start to get we start to get a narrative that introduces multiple timelines with, significant implications for the characters and their missions. Now, this fits with a Voyager-esque kind of story, because Voyager played around with time travel and timelines a lot.
Oh, yeah.
And it almost kind of... I would argue that this almost starts to sort of validate even the existence of, like, the Kelvin universe in a way, because it's sort of... You start to get a view of, like, actually, yeah, multiple timelines are a thing, and we know they exist.
And I swear I thought I heard it, and even though this might go beyond this episode, I swear I thought I heard at some point in the season a Kelvin reference.
I think there is. I'm gonna check in with MC, one of my co-hosts from Trexperts Quiz on that, because if anyone picked up on that reference, it would be my good friend MC.
And if you're in the chat and remember and can verify that, please let us.
Absolutely. But we've also got, there's a bit of like full circle going on as well, because it's not just setting up a whole new serialized story. It's very linked in to all of the events from the first season, because we've got, when Gwyn arrives on Solum, she is immediately confronted by Essentia. So, Jim, how did you feel about these? Because there's kind of two plots running here at the same time. How did you feel about Gwen's plot? Did you find that it was satisfying to have these two plots going at the same time? What do you think of how Gwen's evolving early in the season?
Well, I did like that they kind of ran them separately from each other. Although with the Gwen plot, you kind of could have pulled the whole Essentia reveal thing from like a script writing tool. It was so obvious that was going to happen.
Yeah. Look, it's fine.
I mean, yeah, you got to have drama for drama's sake, even in a children's show like this. But still, they could have at least plotted it out a little more, where it was like, have him believe her for a couple of minutes, maybe, and then have Essentia come in and convince them. But they didn't even believe her. But Gwen went in, and it was like they didn't even. It was like immediately, you're a liar. Bye.
Yeah, I got the feeling that perhaps Essentia had been there for a while already, kind of.
Yeah, so did I.
Manipulating a little bit. I get the feeling that the people of Solom are quite easily led. The Valnakat, like they.
It was kind of almost like Essentia, as soon as she was defeated in season 1, beelined it for Solom.
Yes, which she kind of remains as, the last kind of angry component of that particular timeline, which, and she's determined to make that timeline not happen. But I think that it's kind of hinted at that it's, the timelines exist regardless, right? But there are, you've got to kind of maintain a bit of peace and stability. But those are some themes that are maybe best left for the second.
To quote Janeway, time travel gives me a headache.
There was a funny joke from Dal as well, where he said this timey-wimey stuff really hurts my head, which was a cute little Doctor Who reference, which
Oh yeah, I loved that too.
very
Which
much enjoyed.
I think we can just on a separate podcast talk about the whole San Diego Comic-Con thing.
Yep. We also met Nova Squadron.
Oh yes, I think it was Red Squad actually, not Nova Squadron.
I thought it was Nova, or was it Red? Because I thought it was Nova Squadron, which is because it's the flight one, which is the same one that Wesley was in. What's that one where they kill their fellow?
Yeah, that's Nova
pilot?
Squadron. I could have sworn it was Red Squad. I could be wrong. It's happened before, so
Let's quickly check that. Star Trek Season 2 introduces Majel, a Vulcan cadet in Nova Squadron, according to a quick Google from Screen Rant. So yeah,
I admit I'm wrong then.
That's all right. That's all right. We haven't had we're still absorbing this season, so there'll be a few rewatches that will be needed to help details sink in. But it was this season is chock full of gorgeous little callbacks and continuations.
Oh, it so is.
And Nova Squadron.
And just like you talked about just now, Majel.
Perfect. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Majel.
Perfect one, yeah.
Yeah, and it was, good to see, I think what they want to do with this show, and what was always the intention, is it is a kids show at its heart, despite some very adult themes and some storylines which are very much for the long-term fans. I think there's a hope here that the 40 or 30 plus Star Trek fans who grew up watching Star Trek in the 90s, or even older who grew up watching it in the 60s, will watch it with their younger audience and, be able to go, oh yeah, this is about this. You should watch this episode, or you should watch this episode if you want to know more about Nova Squadron. Yeah,
and I think that's what they've been doing, and they've been doing it very well.
I'd love to know if there is if there's any of our fellow Trek family out there who have kids who are trying to use Prodigy to get their kids into it, because it does have a fabulous story arc for a kid's cartoon serial. Like this, if this had been on when I was, an early teen, I would have eaten it up. I loved these kind of serialized sci-fi kind of programs. I would have loved it. So yeah, nice callback there with Nova Squadron. Now, early on in the plot, so they realize that there's a focus on saving Chakotay, and as we kind of move into the breach, a couple of different things happen, right? So they basically screw it up so that Chakotay never sends the protostar back in time. which is comical, but it kind of sets off the whole arc of the season. And we've also got Gwyn, who is challenging Essentia to some ancient rite, which she kind of wins, but then she kind of loses anyway, which is all very odd.
That connects into the whole to the whole previous part of they cause Chakotay to not send the protostar back in time, which causes Gwyn, which in turn can cause Gwyn to not exist.
Exactly. And there's lots of little in these first 2 to 3 episodes. So the first two being Into the Breach parts 1 and 2. There's some interesting themes that kind of emerge as well, which are fabulous for a younger audience, especially around the importance of growth and adaptation. As they're assigned to roles that match their skills. And they start to begin a bit of a journey as experienced Starfleet officers, and we still just start to see some of those growing pains a little bit, especially with Dal, and that he has a bit of an arc that will continue as a result of this as well. But I think for me, these first 2 episodes set up a really intriguing and complex set of characters and storylines, which what I love treats the younger audience like intelligent beings and doesn't pander to them, doesn't, there's character moments and all, and some humor, which is probably very much for a younger audience, but the story itself is real intelligent, thought-provoking storytelling, which will hopefully blow the minds of younger viewers. Like Star Trek used to blow my mind when I was younger at the possibilities of the universe. What are your thoughts on that, Jim?
Yeah, I do agree. I do agree with you on that. They do kind of cater to the younger audience with the humor, because there are humorous situations in that you would not find even in Lower Decks. Like, what was it? It was either Rock Talk or Murph, like holding the entire crew up on the roof of Shuttle Bay 3, trying to hide them,
Mm-hmm.
and they're desperately trying to avoid detection. Or what was the other one where Dahl falls out of the falls out of the Jeffries tube onto the bridge in front of the entire bridge crew. He's like, "Hi."
Yeah, exactly. But it's cute. It's cute.
Yeah,
Like,
I mean, yeah, very cute, and I did enjoy him. Just not something you would find in any other Star Trek ever.
exactly, yeah, and it's not exactly, it's not obnoxious. I think
Yeah,
sometimes that,
no, not at all.
yeah, which
It's kind of like how I've pointed it out, like to some local friends here. They are straddling an incredibly fine line, very, very well. They are catering to the young fans. They're catering to the young to the young children, to either draw them in as fans or just to make a really good children's cartoon, while at the same time catering to the established Trek fans to just to give them a good Star Trek show.
absolutely. And it's really, I mean, what I've noticed as well is that it's always from the perspective of our young crew, of our Prodigy.
Yes.
Yeah, our Starfleet Prodigy.
Occasionally we might get a Janeway perspective, but I think we even had a Chakotay and Wesley perspective in a couple of these episodes, but I'm getting ahead of myself. But you're right. Otherwise, it's pretty much been the kids.
Absolutely. And even when the plot strays into kind of Janeway-ish kind of territory, it's always the younger audience observing the behavior of adults, and and the adults always kind of like face palming about what the kids are doing.
Yeah.
And which kind of gives it that wonderful sort of childlike wonder, and encourages that childlike curiosity as well. Like, just when they figure out that, hey, maybe there's more going on Voyager than Janeway and the Doctor and everyone are leading on, because they wind up hearing like Shuttle Bay 3, like, the Doctor lets that slip. Oh no, there is no Shuttle Bay 3, like, which is, hilarious, because if anyone was going to let it slip like that, it's the Doctor.
It's going to be the Doctor, and he is going to be a terrible and he's going to be terrible at covering it up because he's a bad liar.
Yeah, exactly. Which is, how we lead to, discovering, is it the Infinity? Was that the name of the ship? It looked very marquee like that ship. The timey-wimey time travel cloaked ship in Shuttle Bay 3.
Yeah, I think it was the Infinity.
Yeah, which, I mean, of course, Dal and the crew steal it and get themselves into trouble,
and bring Michelle along for the ride after that little misadventure.
Yeah. So we've kind of gone into episode 3 a little bit here, which is Who Saves the Saviors, where it is the Infinity. They travel through the temporal wormhole, they crash land on Solum, encounter future versions of characters, being Chakotay and what have you, and they wind up with the whole mistake, because I think Chakotay gets one of their phasers or phaser rifles and is able to defend himself, and never winds up sending the protostar back in time, which is, and Majel kind of starts to, because Majel kind of becomes one of our Prodigy here as well, because at first she looks down on them, but then she's like, hang on.
At first she's a prototypical Vulcan.
Yeah, exactly. But she figures it out. But she thinks they're highly illogical and troublemakers, but she's also intensely curious herself. And that is what a Vulcan is. A Vulcan may be logical, but they are scientific and they are curious. I think
Oh,
that's
very much so.
yeah. I think it's an element of the Vulcan character or the Vulcan race that I don't think has really been delved into too much. Is their curiosity, fascinating and
No, it
comments
really
that way.
hasn't been, which is a shame.
Yeah, like you would think that they're not naturally curious because they warn humans off, you know, leaving Earth before it's their time, and they're always
And they deny the existence of time travel until it becomes blatantly obvious to them.
yes, but they've curiously looked into these topics before, which is a bit of a theme for me for this season in general and for Prodigy. Is it's that wonderful celebration of young curiosity and both the amazing open-mindedness that it can bring and the clarity of vision, because they always are seeing things that the adults do not see, which I think is really, really cool. Let's jump ahead now to the next episode, which is Temporal Mechanics 101. Now, this is where, they have to sort of dive a little bit deeper into the disruptions that they've caused. And there's all kinds of weird temporal anomalies happening left, right, and center. And I can't remember if this is the episode where we first realize that Gwen is sort of existing out of the space-time continuum, and she's got to she needs to get the armband on to kind of center her to our timeline so that she doesn't kind of disappear into nothingness. But this was I love that this episode was basically the butt of or the punchline for the joke that had been building since the first episode, which is the fact that Dahl had not read Temporal Mechanics
Yes.
101.
Like, I loved that. Like, I loved that running joke. How literally, I think it was every character, like either genuine surprise or just like sarcastically says, "You haven't read Temporal, or what? You haven't read Temporal Mechanics 101, or when are you going to read it?"
Literally, I think everyone says it to him at some point over the first 3 episodes, and then he finally. I cracked up.
And then when they're crash landed, he's like, send me Temporal Mechanics 101.
Which is essentially a YouTube video. Like, it is one of those... It's like Temporal Mechanics 101 is like Temporal Mechanics for dummies. Have you ever seen those
Yes.
simple science videos where it's the hand and the whiteboard, like doing all the weird diagrams and simple explanations?
And I loved is that they actually got Aaron McDonald to voice the video for that.
So cool. So cool. Very, 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 very cute. It's one of those... I think it's one of those moments where there may be some hardcore Trek fans out there who go, "Oh, this is so cringe. This would never happen in my Star Trek, rah, rah, rah." But it's one of those moments which is, hey, guess what? It's for the younger audience. It's not so much for you. And, hey, have a laugh, because it's actually quite fun.
I mean, the animation did kind of remind me of the library computer on the Enterprise D from Rascals, but still, that's kind of what they were going for as well.
Yeah, exactly. Which, it's cool. It's cool. I appreciated it for what it was. And, how it was actually kind of used to, I think it kind of explained a very complex topic and plot device to not only the younger, but the older audience as well. Like, because
yes,
I was kind of like, this is kind of cringe, but I'm kind of helping me get it a little bit more because time.
Yeah, same here. I liked that it was explaining it to Dahl, but I, at the same time, I was kind of getting it too.
Exactly. And and there's we learn a little bit more about Majel through this episode. This is where you sort of get the feeling that she's going to become a little bit more permanent, because she's there guiding everything in terms of, making sure everyone understands Starfleet's temporal protocols. And they learn a little bit. You get a little bit more Chakotay, which is good as well. Just a little bit of hint
Yeah.
of Chakotay in this.
And I'm under the impression that like, and I won't delve too much into this, but that he recorded all of that before everything that happened with him.
Possibly. I know that there is a lot of angst around Robert Beltran at the moment. And, agree or disagree with his points of views on some things. There was comfort for me in hearing the voice of the character. It was very much a moment of take the actor away from the character for a moment.
Yeah, same here. I was glad to hear the character. Didn't necessarily need to hear the actor. It was kind of a little of both there.
I know. It's unfortunate, right? Like, I mean, for me, it's the same, almost the same crisis I have with Harry Potter, because I am out and proud member of the LGBTIQ community, and I cannot stand that author's views on transgender people and just how awful she is. But I also used to really, I'm like, can I separate the author from what I really loved as a story and a movie and all that kind of stuff? And look, to be honest, I haven't, because I have not gone anywhere near Harry Potter. So I really wanted to play Hogwarts Legacy when it came out, but I just couldn't bring myself to do it. Similar quandaries when hearing Robert Beltran and seeing his name in the credits and all that kind of stuff. It's like, oh, come on, mate. Like, align with the values of this franchise. But maybe we won't get too political today, Jim. Maybe we won't get too political.
I try and
today.
separate those two, so that's why I wasn't going to go beyond what I originally said.
I know, but you triggered me a little bit. I couldn't help myself.
Oh, I know.
Dear. So, look, we want to try and get through a few of these episodes in the time that we have today. So first of all, just going to jump back to the poll that we put up on YouTube. So basically 50-50 binging and savoring, which kind of what I expected. So thank you to everyone who voted in the poll. The next episode is Imposter Syndrome, which is an episode with the crew facing an identity crisis of sorts, where they must confront their insecurities and prove their worth within Starfleet, with the general theme of imposter syndrome really kind of coming to the forefront of this one, where each one faces, a lot of personal challenges that test their self-confidence and capabilities, and which I found really, really interesting because, I am a huge sufferer of imposter syndrome. My entire life, my entire career, I've always experienced it. And earlier on in my life, it was actually something that really crippled me in terms of my ability to move forward in my career. I actually had to go through therapy to learn how to harness my imposter syndrome in a way that actually allowed my career to grow and flourish. Have you ever experienced imposter syndrome, Jim, that you'd like to talk about?
Not that I've ever been aware of.
No? Okay, cool. You're familiar with the concept though, right?
Yes, I'm familiar with the concept.
Yeah, exactly. So, it's that...
I've had other issues that I won't go into, but as far as I'm aware, I've never had imposter syndrome.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, it's basically that belief that, you don't belong doing what you're doing. I'm about to start a new job, and I've gone through a rigorous interview process for it. I've been shortlisted out of many applicants and chosen to take the job on. I start in 2 months' time, and I'm already thinking, hey, I think maybe they don't realize that I'm not the right person for this. But it's the thing that drives me to do better, right? So I harness that and go, all right, well, I've obviously been selected for this for a reason, so I'm going to embrace it, right? Like, I'm going to learn, I'm going to go into this, and I'm going to use that imposter syndrome as a way to do better and prove that I'm capable of doing this. So what we also got in this episode, though, is now. Hang on a sec. I've skipped forward in my notes a little bit. I might move on to the next one, which was an episode I quite enjoyed, which is The Fast and the Curious. So this is the episode, Jim, where they find an old Borg transwarp conduit, which I'm assuming, because they kind of talk about transwarp conduits a lot in, I think they get referenced in Picard, they get season 3, I think they're mentioned in Discovery a little bit. It seems that like the downfall of the Borg from the end of Voyager with the pathogen that Janeway introduced has basically left their infrastructure kind of scattered all throughout the galaxy, because they jump.
That was the impression I got too.
Yeah, because it's like, oh wait, hang on, it's just kind of there. We've just happened to stumble across it, but then we have a Kazon who is there's a Kazon who has kind of mined it of sorts, and then brings the protostar out, crashed onto the planet. I read an interesting perspective on this Kazon that he's a few Oglamar short of a Nistrum or something like that. I can't remember which site I read that on.
Of course, there was a twist on that too. They had to throw an AI in there.
They did have to throw an AI in there, which is, very, very, very topical. This was a bit of a classic kind of bottle episode, which I think Prodigy does a lot of. It has these little bottle episodes, which very carefully moves the broader serialized story along. But what I love about these bottle episodes is that they're fun episodes that work as children's entertainment, and again as something that the adults can enjoy too.
And I remember when I was watching this episode, and you see like that ship graveyard when I think it was Zero and Rock Talk discover it. I remember I freeze framed it just to see if I could make out any of the names of the ships frozen in the planet, and you could only make out one.
Which one was it?
The USS Cairo.
Oh, okay. Which ship was that?
This is the part I love, because we have. I'm pretty sure he's appeared he's already appeared this season at some point. That was Jellicoe's ship when he was a captain.
Ah, of course, which is probably it's a little in-joke to the fact that Jellicoe is Janeway's commanding officer of sorts, really, because Jellicoe's
everyone's commanding officer now.
Yeah, exactly. He's issuing all of Janeway's orders, so geez, you're good at picking up on little stuff like that, Jim. I did not pick up on that.
Oh, there's probably a ton of stuff I missed, but I did pick up on that at least.
Yep. And there's the whole thing of this episode is this race that they embark on, which was, it was pretty cool. It was very, lots of great sort of like, fun, fast-paced action and animation. The Kazon is being driven mad by some voice, which turns out to be some AI manipulating things behind the scenes. How did you find this as a bit of a bottle episode as a whole?
I thought like the racing scenes were like good. I thought the AI mystery was solved even though it is a kids show, so it's not going to be too complex. I do admit that. I thought it was solved way too easily. Like literally you snap your fingers and it was solved, which I thought was just a little too simple, even for like a show geared towards kids. They could have put maybe one more twist in there with the AI. Like it was literally Zero sacrifices herself and it's done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I thought it was like too simple, if you ask me.
And that's right, and because Zero kind of comes back pretty beaten, battered, and bruised from this experience, right? Like there's which leads into what happens.
Yeah, and I thought that was a great character development for them, but still, I thought like the whole thing, the whole story angle with the AI seemed like something that could have been done over 2 or 3 episodes and not just stuffed into one bottle episode.
Yeah, true. What do you think about how Prodigy does these bottle episodes, though? Right, because
as a general rule, they actually do them very well. But this is one example where it was like they tried to do too much. They tried to do too much in a half hour.
Yeah, potentially. Yeah, I mean, and that is the thing. It's not even a half hour. It's like 22 minutes, I think.
Yeah,
in
it's like
most
22 to
cases.
25 minutes.
Yeah. They've always got the destination in mind, and then they do these little breaks in between the big multi-part arcs where it's like, well, we're on our way to the destination, but we're traveling across vast quantities of space, and we're going to run into trouble along the way, which is how we develop our characters. It's how we bond our characters. It's these wonderful. There's underlying narrative, but then the plot kind of just bounces here, there, and everywhere, but in a way that makes it so much more satisfying because, without giving anything away, everything just kind of weaves in wonderfully throughout the whole season. Even the episodes which you, like this one, which you believe are kind of more standalone. I think we kind of move on to the next episode now, which is there in beauty no truth? Now, if I remember correctly, is this where Zero gets a new body?
I think it is, yes.
Yeah. So, because it's all the non-corporeal entities living on a planet where they've decided...
Which I thought was a great callback to like TOS. And I think it was like Medusans, Paxons, and I think there were one or two other species names. And these were like species except for the Medusans with Zero, that we hadn't heard about since like William Shatner was playing Captain Kirk live.
Yeah. Because I mean, if I'm looking at just a recap online here, so they fight off the evil computer. Zero is unable to do much with their robo limbs that they have now and starts to feel like a burden.
Which was kind of an amusing little montage.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, they get a telepathic message. That's right. So Zero gets a telepathic message from another Medusan offering help and providing coordinates to a colony of non-corporeals. So they decide to go there, which is all sort of part of the mission to save Dakota. And basically they arrive and they find out that Zero is able to take up an offer to basically get a real body, which all seems way too good to be true. There's a little quote there, you did not tell them everything. And I think that is because it's, basically the body's pretty fragile, right? It's like, well, if you want to have a corporeal existence, you need to know that existence is, strewn about with fragility. What did you think of the design of Zero as a corporeal being?
I have to think about that for a second. That's not something I actually gave any thought to. I actually think that was a great design for Zero. Now that I think about it,
yeah, it was a cute little way to just sort of explore this character a little bit more, and and Star Trek loves to do these storylines of very non-human aliens getting a human experience, right? And sort of demonstrating almost the wonder of what it is to be human. All these things we take for granted, like, just scent and touch and general emotion, even pain. Like, it's all, it's an interesting kind of way to kind of look at it. What did you think of Zero's corporeal experience here?
I definitely thought it was a great storyline.
Yeah, it was. It was very cool. There's a bit more that kind of goes on in this episode as well. So there is, and you'll have to forgive me, I am recounting this, everyone, because this episode didn't stick very well in my episode, thanks to
Yeah, it didn't stick well in mine either.
I mean, I knew and here's the thing, I've only watched these once before running this panel, everyone. But I knew that this was the episode where Zero became corporeal. But I also remember there's some kind of big race that goes on as well. The run.
Yeah, that's all I really remember is the scene where it's like Zero and Dal in the mouth of that beast flying in the sky.
Yes, that's right. The running of Namazon, which is they're focused on experiencing the forgotten sense, the sense of fear, What better way to feel alive than to literally run for your life from a monster? That's right. So they do kind of join that, and then, they wind up, going through this whole experience with that. It was a little bit bonding for them all. What I will pivot to, and something that I forgot to kind of discuss, is the fact that meanwhile on Voyager, there is the hollow versions, because they
I forgot about that.
They stole the Infinity, and the hollow duplicates are still back on Voyager, but they've all had swapped personalities.
The actors must have had a great time trying to do impressions of each other for that little bit.
How were the hollow versions existing outside the holodeck? Do you remember? Was there an explanation to that?
I don't think there was. I think it was that there were hollow emitters outside of the holodeck, but I'm not 100% sure on that.
If anyone in our chat knows the answer to that, I can see there's a few of you there watching. Please help us out, because the Doctor still had the mobile emitter on. And I remember that.
I did like how they figured it out. I did like how everyone else figured it out, starting with Michelle and then working up to the Doctor figuring it out.
Yeah. Now, this is where we start to get hints of something even bigger going on, because in this episode, we've got Hollow Gwen, who has been attacked, I believe, because there's a whole moment where time kind of freezes and all the tentacles come in, and it goes for Hollow Gwen, but then realizes that she's not real, and then everything kind of goes back to normal.
And Hollow Gwen, I think, just disappears.
Yeah, that's right. Because then, there's a whole bit in this where Janeway is sort of figuring out, okay, there's something that's after them. We don't know what it is. Without giving any, let's careful treading on spoiler territory here. What did you think was going on at this point? Because this was a very sudden and eerie introduction to some other malevolent force that
I was withholding judgment at this. I was withholding judgment at that point.
Yeah, I think I may have been a little bit as well. I mean, it was obvious that something's happening around Gwen, because Gwen is an oddity in the space-time continuum, with all of these timelines changing. And something's happening which is trying to correct that, which was generally the vibe that I got at the time. Whether it worked out that way or not, I will not say. And I think as well, so the focus of this episode is on Zero's adventure and a couple of dips back into the Voyager A to move the season arc along.
Although I think that also might have been the episode, and I might be wrong, where the Doctor references Lower Decks.
Yes, that's right. He says, "I've not seen a crew this dysfunctional since the Cerritos."
Yes, and I will admit, when I heard the Doctor do that, I started chanting "Lower Decks, Lower Decks."
Yeah, but I was like, does that mean that maybe the Doctor might appear in Lower Decks at some point?
One can only hope.
If he's familiar with the Cerritos, or maybe just the dysfunction of the Cerritos is just very well known in the Federation. And here is another bit of injustice for me in terms of how Prodigy has kind of been ripped out of that main stable of Star Trek universe programs from Paramount Plus, although I think maybe they may change their minds when they see how popular it's been.
Yeah.
And that is the fact that there's a lot of exposition which works really hard to position its point in that broader shared universe, right? Because not only does it reference Lower Decks and the Cerritos, establishing both of them as canon, but it also references the Romulan evacuation and how Admiral Picard is very busy with the Romulan evacuation too. That's referenced right from the beginning.
It also referenced, I believe there was also a reference to Beverly Crusher and how she's suddenly nowhere to be found unless you work really, really hard to find her, as obviously they did.
Yeah, exactly. So it's but you know that all of this was written and animated and all that before Paramount Plus kind of pulled the plug, because they'd more or less finished the season. There was just a few little odds and ends to tie up. I think as well, there is something that we see in this episode, and I'm sorry for hanging on this episode for a little bit, but as I've refreshed my memory,
Well, it's hard not to hang on every episode with all the Easter eggs this season.
So much going on in every episode, absolutely. But
and I think we forgot to mention earlier. I think it was like, wasn't there a whale in Cetacean Ops?
Yes, don't know how I felt about that. I mean, that's got some. What was the name of the documentary about the mistreatment of whales at SeaWorld? And I'm like, that was all about keeping those giant creatures inside a tiny enclosure. I'm like, a whale inside a starship? That's a lot. I thought, bring back the weird horny dolphins from Lower Decks instead.
No, but I just enjoyed the fact that it was a whale named Jillian.
That was cute. Yeah. That's only just gone click. Something else that happened in this episode, which this Trek movie article that I've got open has just reminded me of, is that we saw Parisi squares. Had we ever actually seen a game of Parisi squares being played?
No,
before?
I don't think we had. I think we've seen the aftermaths. We've seen several aftermaths of Parisi squares. But I don't think we'd ever actually seen the game before.
Yeah.
Now we know how dangerous it could possibly be.
Yep. Yeah, that's really cool. Awesome. All right. Oh wow. This article is good. It gives me lots of little extra tidbits I didn't know about. Thank you, Trek movie.
And we promise we will move on to the other episodes at some point, folks.
We will. I think that's a good... So we're actually up to the last 2 episodes of the first half of this season, which is the first 2 parts of a 4-part arc, which is the Devourer of All Things. So let's have a little look at that. So this is... So if I look at the plot overviews I took down before, the crew faces a new and formidable threat and puts survival skills to the test. Okay, these aren't actually overly helpful. So the Devourer of All Things. Now, let's go to part 1. Now, part 1, I believe, is where we are introduced to... He's returned, the Traveler, Wesley Crusher.
Loved that so much.
So much. If you've... Listeners, viewers, if you've paid attention to any of my shows on BQM before, you know I am a huge Wesley Crusher fan. And I was initially, as a young adult or a young teenager, very upset by the fact that he became a traveler and that he did not continue as the Starfleet prodigy that I thought he would, which is why for me it's so fitting that Will Wheaton gets to return in Prodigy, basically assisting the prodigy of Starfleet, which is so good. So, basically,
and it gives him so much character, so much more character development than the character probably had in the last 2 years. In the last 2 years that he was a regular on the series, and maybe 6 out of the 7 years he was on TNG, even.
Yeah. Now they come about finding Wesley because they come across a planet which is out of phase in a similar way to how Gwen is out of phase. They land, there's lots of kind of temples and statues everywhere, there's a weird kind of voice calling, and they eventually find that it is Wesley. Now, Wesley is, he's here for a bit of exposition, immediately starts talking about travelers and how they watch over, he introduces a concept of a multiverse to Star Trek, which We knew about, right? We knew that there is a multiverse to Star Trek. This is probably the first
That
time.
might have, yes, we did, and that might have been where the Kelvin reference came.
Yeah, I think this is the first time it's ever really been heavily verbalized in canon.
Yeah.
That our beloved series, our beloved franchise has a multiverse, just like DC does, just like Marvel does. It's a bit of a cliche, but it's quite a natural concept to introduce in a long-running franchise like this, where you're constantly going back and forth in time, because it gives you a plot device to play around with characters and stories and break canon as much as you like, really.
Yes, and it does kind of connect everything together, because did you notice how he kind of, how he referenced the mycelial network in that whole rant there?
He does, and he also specifically refers to it as the prime timeline. When he's talking about the timelines, he's like, no, we're in the prime timeline. That's what this is.
Yes, I picked up on that too.
And that everything kind of branches off the prime timeline in a whole bunch of fancy ways. One thing I didn't like about this was that I felt like they kind of made Wesley Doctor Who in this episode.
I actually kind of like that, but then again, I am a big Doctor Who fan as well.
So am I. I'm finishing up. I've got 2 more episodes of the current season to watch, which I'm loving, by the way. But
I haven't finished it, so spoilers, darling, spoilers.
No spoilers here. Don't worry. But Wesley just came across really Doctor Who here for me. He was incredibly eccentric. He was almost walking around a TARDIS-like console, doing all kinds of weird things. Yeah. It's like, here's these weird instruments that all apparently do something incredible.
And his whole comment about how do you know about the supervisors, which was a great Picard reference in its own right by itself. Kind of came off as like a fifth or even a 10th Doctor kind of a comment as well.
Yeah. I've continued on my Trek movie binge whilst we've been talking to help refresh my memory of some of the different plot points, and I've just come across that they've made a similar joke in their article here about, like, it says Doctor Who with Who crossed out and then Wes next to it, Dr. Wes. So we also get, Wesley now introduces us to what is kind of the real big bad, big scary thing that's going on here. And that is the fact that because time has been broken, that there essentially exist these creatures who feed on dying timelines.
I thought those things were freaking scary.
This is one of the first times in a while I have been genuinely terrified by a Star Trek, bad guy. The Loom were horrifying. They just grab you and erase you from existence, and people forget who you are.
For a kid show, I thought those things were incredibly scary. And I did like the fact that, like, if they grab you and get you, you're gone. You're gone. You're completely wiped. You're completely wiped out from the timeline, which I thought they emphasized perfectly when Tysus took the away team down and they got attacked, and when he when he beamed out and beamed back to the Voyager, and he was like, they got Middleton, and Janeway was like, who's Middleton? I didn't send any Middleton down with you.
Yeah. So funny. But also just evidence of just what a terrifying concept they were. Similar to the Weeping Angels, I guess, in Doctor Who, because if the Weeping Angels touch you, don't they erase you? Was that similar?
No, I think it was they send you back in time.
That's right, they do. They send you back in, but like really far back in time.
Yeah, they send you back in time to whatever point in time they decide to send you back to, and you just live out the rest of your natural life.
That's right. Now, in the Loom, phasers don't seem to do much. So
no. Which made them even more scary, because that battle between Voyager and the Loom, oh my god.
Oh, where it like came through the view screen and everything?
Yes.
Yeah, So good though. Like the action in it was incredible.
Yeah, like when it literally crawled up the hole in front of the view screen, I like literally jumped, like freaked out as it like did that, and then just walked right through the walked right through the hole in the view screen onto the bridge.
So good, so good. So to escape the loom, Wesley takes them into a traveler training facility, which is
Which I loved.
Gary Seven's office.
Yeah.
Gary Seven's office. It was at this point as well that I realized that Wesley was wearing his ugly TNG season 1 sweater underneath his trench coat.
Oh, I didn't pick up on that.
Well, he makes a joke about sweaters at some point, and then I realized, oh my god, he's wearing what? Like, I think it's like the Encounter at Farpoint sweater, you know, with the woolen one with like the big chunky kind of lines and patterns on it. He's got it on underneath his trench coat. So yeah, so they're inside this training facility, trying to escape the loom, and this is where the landing party with Majel and someone else beams down, and then, you know, they get attacked, and this is where the whole attack begins, and then people start getting erased, and they start realizing that the loom can erase people. We get that whole kind of big scare that's the case. Now, this again kind of starts to build a connection with Majel, because basically they're forced with this decision, and Wesley is kind of rough here with
Oh, he is cold as hell. He is cold as hell in that scene.
Yeah, they need to basically risk letting the loom know where they are, or let them get Majel. That's the decision of their. And Wesley is adamant that it's not worth the risk, right? Which I found really, really quite surprising. But then as well, I think Wesley's supposed to have this insight, right? Like, he's supposed to know how things should play out. But I think we kind of learn that it's a very intricate tapestry that what he's working with, and that things don't necessarily play out. Like, he has insights into how they might play out, but doesn't necessarily.
But he doesn't know. But he doesn't know the end results for everything.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you know, they end up saving Majel, and you know, Majel knows. Yeah, basically, it's a case of, you know, they find out where they are. The action continues, which is fine.
And speaking of action, I love how at the same time you got like Janeway getting down and dirty like she did in Macrocosm.
Yes, I just came across a picture of her in the muscle top, and she's in the shuttle, and she is just kicking butt like Janeway only knows how. This whole episode was just such an amazing, like, if it had been a mid-season finale, if they'd released episodes 1 to 10 first and gave us this
would have been a perfect mid-season finale.
Exactly. Netflix, this would have had people hanging on, like, you know, bring out the second half a month or two later. We would have been crying out for more.
Yeah.
But, you know, it is what it is. What did you think about, so we've kind of been introduced to this concept before with the Traveler, but with Wesley and the Travelers, we're getting a little bit more kind of, you know, into a realm that traditional science can't really quite explain as well as, you know, it usually does in the rest of Star Trek. So Wesley explains that, you know, the additional power or sort of dimension that he's able to harness as a traveler is the power of thought, which is almost a little kind of like the Force and midichlorians and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
What do you think of the introduction of that as a concept?
I thought it was a great concept. Like, it just adds all sorts of new storyline ideas that could possibly be introduced.
Mm-hmm.
Like one can only imagine going forward what they could possibly do with Wesley.
Yeah. Now, it essentially ends with, you know, Wesley sends them somewhere, you know, to keep them safe. So, you know, there's a big kind of climactic end to the battle, and we get our.
Oh yeah, and I loved that scene where he realized that. Sorry for interrupting. That Majel was integral to the plot.
Yeah, so he starts to give them all these warnings that they have to stay together. That it's, you know, that they are, they are the thing that is going to fix the timeline, and they have to do it by staying together. And then he sends them off, and here's where we come to our climax of the end of the first half of the season and near the end of our panel. They arrive on a sandy planet. The protostar is there, and sitting out on the edge is Chakotay. Mid-season finale, end it there, take a break, and don't come back for another couple of weeks, right? That would have been beautiful because it was such a climax. It was such a climax up to that point.
It would have, like, you got, like he sent Janeway. And this scene I did have a little issue with. Like, he sent Janeway back through like a time portal like thing, and lands her like back on the deck of her ship in her command chair.
Mm-hmm.
Suddenly she's in her regular uniform again. That transition I didn't like, but I did like the fact that you got the ship going up, you got the ship speeding away as fast as possible, while at the same time you got the kids off on their own adventure.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, that brings us to sort of the conclusion of the first 10 episodes. So, Jim, wrap up what are your overall thoughts of episodes 1 to 10? Anything you think we haven't discussed? Did we I know that we flew through this at proto warp speed, everyone. So we glossed. I'm sitting here thinking, we didn't even talk about spiral nebulas and all that kind of stuff. But
I think we missed the fact. I don't think we even touched on the diviner at all.
No. Oh, yeah, the fact that Gwyn found her dad and that he were, the earlier version of her dad, and to show that he is a good man, and that there's all that kind of stuff going on with Essentia in the background, which I don't think we get more of until the second half of the season anyway. Yeah, but you are right.
And I did like the scene that in the future, like, we actually do briefly see like the season 1 diviner, like in that one scene, like right after Chakotay flies away in the ship, like that one of the people who had been chasing them was the diviner.
It was too. Yeah, and this is what I mean, Jim. Like, there was so much happening in just 10, 25-minute episodes. It's, how could you ever hope to kind of cover it all off?
Yeah, no, and we only briefly discussed Jellicoe's role, which we could probably talk about for hours.
Absolutely. Especially because he was once someone, who we were kind of taught to not like. And I think we're still,
and we could probably still don't like him completely.
Yeah. He's not necessarily a badmiral, but he's still a pain in the ass. Because there's always got to be an admiral who is ordering people to finish the mission or come home.
And that brings to mind, like, one of my favorite comedic scenes that wasn't like a child comedic scene, which was, I think it was the scene where it was like he's telling Janeway, turn your basically your damn ship around and come home, and she's like, Edward, I can't hear you, you're breaking up.
I know, she's like,
and she's acting like the channel is going bad, we're going into a wormhole.
I know.
And
it's like Star Trek
after
5.
the channel was closed, she's like, what I wasn't lying, not completely.
So funny. Yeah, it reminds me of the opening of Star Trek 5 where they're like, we're caught in a blizzard and we cannot see a thing.
Yeah, it wasn't a complete child comedic moment, but it was like a comedic moment thrown in for like the adults watching.
It was cute. It was really, really cute. I enjoyed it. Jellicoe, it's a very sort of Star Trek cliche to have the Admiral trying to make a risk-based decision from afar, and the conflict that causes usually for our captain and our crew, who are like, but we can do this. We know we can do this, right? Like, you don't know what, the risk of doing nothing is potentially going to further outweigh this. And it almost reminds me of what it's like working in a corporate job where, so much discussion around risk can sometimes prevent like you from doing anything at all. But I won't.
Hence,
I need to unpack that in therapy.
Hence the drama of the Admiral always saying, the Admiral from afar always saying no when the crew knows they can do something.
Exactly. Well, Jim, thank you so much for joining our We Few But Faithful in the Hive Mind this week. Where can our listeners and viewers find you online?
I'm in the Discord chat. You can see me there, and I'm in and out of the Facebook group as well.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you. Now, Jim is here as part of a regular online discussion that we have for our network patrons called the BQN Hive Mind. It used to be just a one-on-one Zoom chat, but we've moved more towards having event-based Hive Mind discussions like this one, like our Let's Fly panels that we were doing, and we'll continue Prodigy Season 2 next week. And if you are one of our network patrons, you are welcome to join the show for the Hive Mind. If you are not a network patron and you'd like to be on the show, head over to patreon.com/BQN. If you enjoyed this, please like and subscribe to us here on YouTube, or if you're listening to the audio version, please follow BQN wherever you get your podcasts from and leave a review. It does help others find the show and the network. You can find me, Davey, on the Trexperts Quiz and Bargain Bin Gamer. Both will be returning soon. Now that I'm back from holidays, we have a 3-part Prodigy season premiere coming very, very soon to Trexperts Quiz. I'm really excited to share more with you about that soon. But that's it for the Hive Mind today. Thank you, Jim. We had Peter in the chat and a few others as well. Thank you so much. We will see you again for part 2 of Prodigy Season 2 next week. Live long and prosper.